Is that Dave?
Hey.
We got Dave?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah, I just had another guy call in just inquiring about your show. Did you just do Janet Mefford's show?
I did. Yes.
Okay, that's what he was asking about. I can't stand that woman.
I know. Hold on a second. You're streaming live now. Just your mic is live. What was he inquiring about specifically about my appearance on Janet Mefford?
No, he was just asking if that was you. Hold on, Justin Moon's calling.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, no, he just wanted to make sure that it was the same person that does Armed American Radio, and then I told him where he could find the live show, either streaming on Facebook. Are you doing YouTube today?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and YouTube today.
Okay, and I also told him about your website.
Okay, so he was
mainly looking for an affiliate in I believe the Nashville, Tennessee area.
Good to know. Love when that happens, and I know. We'll talk privately, but I love Janet. She's one of my favorite talk radio hosts. As a colleague. Okay, so we've got Justin on hold.
Justin and Dave.
All right, tell Justin. I was expecting him at 4:30.
Okay.
Tell him I will keep him for just the first segment. Okay. Would you let him know that?
Okay, so we're holding Justin for the first segment, or he's gonna be live with you then?
No, I'll introduce Dave and I'll bring Justin in to talk about what happened up there.
Okay, you just want to do one segment with him?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I was expecting him to call at 4:30.
Can you tell him to call back?
Ask him to call back during the break. We'll bring him in the second segment for one segment.
Okay.
Thanks.
He said that you told him to call in at 4:03, but here's the deal. I'm kind of pitching him to call back at the bottom of the hour.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Let me just double check because I'm certain it was at 4:30. I think he may have mistaken that for 4:30. Hold on.
Maybe he misread the text.
Call in the show tomorrow. No, I did. I said 4:03, so he's right. Tell him we'll keep him on for the first segment, okay?
Okay.
And let Dave know that we have him on as well, so we're going to go back and forth.
Okay.
Thanks.
$30.
You're good.
This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the gunbroker.com studios on the Crossbreed Holsters Platinum microphone.
They're never going to stop us here.
It's 2021, and we're in a new decade. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
Wow, what a day. Yeah, this is going to be. What a week this is going to be. What a week it's been. What next week is going to be. This is just the beginning. Buckle in. I am Mark Walters. You are inside the gunbroker.com studios on what used to be the Car Arms Platinum microphone, but is now the Crossbreed Holsters Platinum microphone because it is the Car Arms studios on the big giant Monster Cast on Sundays. And every single bit of this program and the Sunday Monster program is presented to you across the country and through whatever platform you're catching it by X Insurance. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let me just start with this. I don't need these notes. I'm going to keep this here just because as my guests today say things, I'll no doubt write them down to go in some different directions with you. But it has been a remarkable few days. It promises to be a remarkable, I'm going to say, year or two, because it's going to be unlike anything this country's ever experienced. But I want to tell you, as a gun owner in America, as a Trump supporter, if you're a Trump supporter, and most of you are, because we look at this through the prism of gun rights, prepare to be demonized and prepare to be canceled. And what I mean by that is you're watching the political left in this country right now do everything in their power to finally rid themselves of Donald Trump. My guest today is good stuff, because we're going to talk with Justin Moon, the CEO of CAR Arms, who is on the line with us, and we also have Dave Workman. Let's start with Dave, who's going to be with me for the hour. Dave Workman out in beautiful Washington in the Bellevue offices of the CCR-KBA and the Second Amendment Foundation. Dave, how are you today?
Well, I'm okay for an old guy.
Okay for an old guy. A lot going on today, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you and my listeners about what we talked about today, and getting very frank with listeners today, because we have to. Let's go right now, Dave. We've got CAR Arms CEO Justin Moon, who just got back from Washington, D.C., so we're going to hear from someone who was there, as we did yesterday, while the rally was going on, before it devolved into what it devolved into later in the day after the program aired. Justin, welcome to the show for a daytime appearance. How are you, my friend?
How you doing, Mark? Good to be on. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and thanks for being here. We missed you yesterday. It was a lot of chaos, lots of people, but you were able to come on with us today. We've got you for a segment. Tell listeners, if you will, about your experience in Washington, D.C., from the time you arrived until when you left.
Well, I got there really early, like 5 in the morning, because I wanted to see Trump speak, and so the line was just immensely long. Probably waited 5 hours to get in. And when we're in there, this place was completely packed. It was like from the ellipse, it was packed all the way back to the Washington Monument, and it was completely a sea of people with flags. They didn't let flags in the actual ellipse, but outside the ellipse, flags everywhere. It was a sight to behold. It was really incredible. And Trump got started speaking a little bit late. I think he was scheduled to start at like 11, but he didn't start until like almost 12. And he talked for a long time. And so, when he was talking, he didn't seem so up. I mean, his entire speech was, Pence, it's up to Pence to decide what happens, with the delegates, whether he accepts them or rejects them. But he didn't seem that upbeat about that statement. So, and then, basically he kind of finished late, and then the route, he invited people to go to tell Congress what people think. So after that, people started moving from the speech site over to the Congress building. So we came up from the Washington Monument up to the Congress. So we're on the backside of the Congress. Mm-hmm. And I guess we got there around like must be like 1 or 1:30, almost, or even possibly 2. And there was a large crowd of people in there. And I would say, in the back of the place, it was largely peaceful. I mean, you can't really see past the few hundred people in front of you, so you can't really see what's going on really at the top of the steps, because it's all covered by a sea of people. But from what we could see, it was largely peaceful, and people were, chanting and all that stuff like you see in a protest. And then I was close enough to the front that then suddenly out of nowhere, these, the tear gas canisters came in. And then when the tear gas canisters came in, I was close enough to kind of smell it. But that's when the people started getting upset. Tear gas came in, and then I saw people getting upset, and they were like, getting mad, effing this, and getting angry. And then they started moving forward and pushing forward. And so, after a few minutes of pushing forward, I guess the law enforcement officers, they moved their perimeter back, and people just, basically occupied the areas where the law enforcement officers moved back from. And once the tear gas stopped and the law enforcement officers were back in the perimeter, people were just basically protesting and not doing anything. They were very peaceful. I would say overall, it was, from my vantage point of the area where I was at, which was the back of the Capitol, was basically peaceful. After things got settled down, I worked my way up to the balcony, and you know, I looked around, and it was just it was the site of all Trump protesters, and all they were doing was protesting. I did see one incident where where there was one person trying to break the window, but then the other protesters around them grabbed them and pulled them away from the window and stopped them.
Yeah, that video, by the way, has gone viral. So you were close to that. I know which video you're talking about. I've seen that. Dave, do you have any questions that you want to ask of Justin, who was there while we've got you as a co-host? Dave?
Well, gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 years anyway, but the one thing I would be curious about, you observed let's use the coin phrase, a largely peaceful protest. It occurs to me that I don't think the size of the crowd has been accurately reported. How many people do you think really showed up for that thing? I've heard tens of thousands.
On the backside, I would say like there were 200,000 people there on the backside.
On the backside.
Wow.
It was a sea of people from the Capitol almost halfway up to the Washington Monument. 200,000 people pushing forward. I mean, there's a constant momentum because everybody's pushing forward. You can't go back, you know.
Yeah. Well, Justin, question for you. Dave, do you mind? Is it okay if Justin, can we keep you for one more segment? I know Dave and I are probably going to have some questions. Dave, is that okay?
Yeah, fine.
Justin, can you stay for one more segment? We've still got a couple minutes in this one, but I'd like to ask you.
Sure.
Okay. My next question is, while you were listening to Trump, and I watched his speech, you said he sounded not as upbeat as usual, Justin. Did you hear Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form? Did he say anything to you that made you think, ruh-roh, we're going to have trouble here? It sounds like he's inciting a riot.
He didn't sound so upbeat, but he recommended people go out and protest, but he didn't say riot. He just said protest. We just thought, go to Capitol building and, chant and, make a lot of noise like you do in a protest. I mean, he didn't say go riot.
Yeah.
That was never said.
Well, the reason I ask that is because that's the driven narrative today, is that Trump is inciting a riot.
That's a false narrative. I don't know how you can say he incited the riot. All he did was ask people to legally protest, which they have a right to do.
Dave, you want to take us out with comment on that before we go to the break, and then we'll open it up with Justin with a few more questions?
Well, I think this certainly reinforces the notion that, A, Trump has a lot of support out there. B, most of these people who showed up yesterday were peaceful and behaved themselves. And C, the narrative that is being driven on the front pages of just about every newspaper I've seen so far is a false narrative. Trump didn't incite a riot, but they're accusing him of it. He may have behaved poorly over the last couple of weeks, but I can't recall hearing him say, let's march on the Capitol and trash it. It just didn't happen.
30.
Yeah, I didn't hear that either. Guys, we've got 30 seconds. When we come back, listeners, we're going to be talking with Justin Moon. He's the CEO of Car Arms, who spent the day in Washington yesterday. Now, we had a fascinating program yesterday, a lot unfolding live from D.C. here on the program. It was very interesting. We had a lot of different things going on. That happens when you're live and something like that is unfolding, and something that is such a news-making event is unfolding. And then after we got off air, it was while we were on air yesterday, you'll recall, that I was able to tell you that Jon Ossoff was in fact declared the winner in Georgia while we were talking about what was happening in Washington. So it was a full day.
20.
When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Justin Moon, who was there. And we're going to compare some of what he saw with his own eyes versus what Dave and I are asking him about now, the driven narrative. We'll be back after this.
All right, are we done with Justin?
Is he asking if you can stay on?
He's still there.
No, we'll keep him for one more segment.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm sorry. I got an important call during that segment. I was kind of having to take it.
No. That's okay. That's okay. Hello, Tracy Joe Callagher. God bless you for being here. And yes, I'm recording.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell you.
That's all right. Where are we at time-wise?
We are about 7 seconds away.
Sounds good.
All right.
Do it. This upcoming segment of Armed American Radio is being sponsored by Gunbroker.com, the world's largest online marketplace to buy and sell firearms, ammo, and related accessories. That's Gunbroker.com. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show indeed. I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today across the country on dozens and dozens of radio stations, and you're maybe watching online right now. Facebook, who, by the way, recently banned Donald Trump, as did Twitter. Orange man bad, no free speech. They don't like what you have to say. Regardless of who you are, they're just going to ban you. So there's your taste of what's coming in 2021. And believe me, they'll ban him, they'll ban you too. Maybe it's time we ban them. For now, we'll play along with their platforms. We're using their streams live right now, and as long as they keep us, we're going to continue to talk about them on their own streams. We enjoy that. I have to say that. Gunbroker.com studios, and you are on the Crossbreed Holsters microphone. We've got one more segment left. This is a quick one with Justin Moon. Dave Workman also joins me. Justin was in Washington yesterday. Dave, welcome back. For this half hour, you're co-hosting the program. How you doing, brother?
Well, I'm okay. This is quite an adventure for me.
Yeah,
so,
I should say not to. It is the first time he's actually acted as a co-host of the show. We're joined by Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms, who was in Washington, D.C. And let me ask this next question, Justin. Welcome back to the show, and thanks for sticking with us for another segment.
My pleasure, Mark.
Yeah, when you saw tear gas canisters, can you tell us why they were throwing tear gas canisters at you? Did you see any activity prior to that? What incited that?
All I saw was a sea of people moving forward up the steps, so I couldn't see what was behind that next ledge of people. All I did, saw was the canister coming, and then after that, the crowd, got mad and started pushing forward and, cursing and all that stuff. But, you know, it looks like the tear gas made the people madder. It didn't turn them away. So they just kept on pushing forward. And then basically I guess law enforcement rearranged the perimeter and let people occupy the space. And when law enforcement moved back and let people occupy the space, they stopped pushing and they were, very peaceful.
Were
I think
you
what
aware?
made the crowd angry.
Were you aware at the time that people had breached security at the Capitol Hill Police Security and actually entered the building unlawfully?
Yeah,
Were you aware of that?
I mean, inside the in that area, it's very difficult to have situational awareness because there's no communication. Cell phones really aren't working, and so I can tell you what I can see. I did see that there was a door open, and then there was one door where people were trying to push their way in. I couldn't see in what the situation, but there was some pushing there. So
okay, well, you were close. You were right on top of it, Dave. Go ahead.
Well, all that does is just, I think it underscores the argument that these people were there peacefully, that, a relative handful actually participated in what they're calling a riot. And it's funny to me, and maybe not funny, but the double standard that is now being played, the press was talking all about peaceful protests all summer long last year.
Yeah.
Now, because they bring a protest to Washington, D.C., this is different. These are Trump rednecks. I mean, that's really where they're going with this. And I'm glad that Justin is able to spend some time with you on the air to clarify things.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. We saw, Justin, you've been on the program with me for quite some time now on the Monster Cast on Sundays, and we've discussed, while it was happening over the summer, the mobs, the rioting, the looting, the Black Lives Matter, Marxist protests. We talked about Antifa, the thugs, the damage, dragging people out of automobiles, burning people's businesses, destroying their livelihoods, and the press calling it a protest. Not only calling it a protest, but you and I have actually talked about the fact that apparently the coronavirus they're so concerned about it's okay to violate their policies about coronavirus as long as you're attending a peaceful protest, which eventually devolves into a riot. Right. So the coverage, and what I told one of my guests yesterday from L.A., Tony Darling from Vault Pro, when he called in from the grounds, and I got to tell you, Justin, this was fun. You could hear the flute playing in the background, and it sounded like he was at a Boston Tea Party in 1775 or something. It was crazy cool. But I told him...
Yeah, I mean, there was protest for chanting, absolutely.
Well, I told him when he got home, he was going to be shocked at the coverage of where he was because it wasn't going to reflect what he saw. Now that you've gotten back, have you seen some of the coverage? And were you angered by how they covered it because you were there and actually lived it?
Yeah, I mean, when I got back, it was like I saw the coverage. I guess that I've been looking at the coverage this morning, and they showed people inside the Capitol, some verbal confrontations. And they were really, demonizing the protesters as like worse than Antifa. But I mean, even if in the footage which they saw, you saw basically the protesters, stopping people from vandalizing the wall, stopping people from vandalizing the Capitol, yelling, "Don't damage anything," and this is our house. So it was a very different character, even when I'm reviewing the footages of what happened in other areas of the Capitol, which I was not privy to because of the lack of communications at that site. But I think the nature and the character of this protest was quite fundamentally different than what we saw with Antifa. And remember, with Antifa, they were randomly taking their anger out at people who didn't do anything wrong to them. They were destroying stores and looting stores and hurting and people. From what I understand, these protesters didn't really hurt anybody. I don't know if that's but even when they were the pushing and back and forth, you see video. I see video of protesters saying don't punch or assault the police and all they did was just move backwards because of the press of the crowd. So yeah, I think there may be some instances where some of the maybe there were Antifa infiltrators in the crowd which tried to break things and make trouble, but I don't think that was the predominant nature of the protest. There were a few bad apples, probably.
Well, you got a couple 100,000 people, Justin. That's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, probably at Trump's event in the morning, there are probably like 1 million people there, and probably a couple 100,000 of them have headed over to the Capitol. So, I mean, if you have like even 10 or 15 or even 100 people making trouble compared to 200,000, that's not a big ratio.
Dave, take us to the break with conversation with Justin, and it's yours.
Well, frankly, I think what happened yesterday, the media was surprised and stunned. Members of Congress were surprised and, in some cases, apparently terrified. But I think it shows that there is a strong group of people out there who feel that
30
cheated this last election, and now they're saying so.
Yeah, it's going to be a remarkable year, no doubt. Hey, Justin, we're coming to the end. Thank you. Thanks for being a patriot, okay, and showing your support. And thanks for being there, and thanks for calling us and giving us hands-on. What you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, is what actually happened, not from ABC, NBC, so you can CBS, but from someone who was actually there. Justin Moon, the CEO of Car Arms. Thank you, Justin. We appreciate it. We'll see you on Sunday's broadcast. Well, we're going to have a lot more to talk about when we have more time with you on Sunday, so thanks for being here. We do appreciate it much while that news is fresh on our screens.
20.
Dave Workman will be back with me for the remainder of the hour, and we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty and probably tell you some things you don't want to hear, but that you have to hear. We'd be remiss in our duties if we didn't, and we'll talk about it together on Armed American Radio when we come back. Don't go away. Buckle in, guys. This next 2 segments with Dave is going to be pretty hard-hitting. So I just wanted to come back, bring the screen back up and let you know that with the camera, that it's going to be a powerful 2 segments. We're not expecting Justin for that much, but I'm so glad he called. We tried to get him on live yesterday from the event, but obviously when you're in that, as you heard him say, cell phones aren't working. It was tough. So we're very fortunate that we were able to get Tony Darling from Vault Pro in and get Heads Up live from the event. But this next 2 segments is going to be going to be powerful, no question. And it's going to be one of those situations where you can't refuse to accept the situation lest you be living in denial, and we don't want anybody living in denial. So we're going to approach things from that perspective, and it's just some things that we have to talk about. So prepare. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
By the way, I'm currently on a Facebook ban.
Oh, good for you.
I've been on one since like the 23rd.
Very nice. Proud of you.
Got a 30.
Did you really?
My fifth 30-day ban in 2020.
Wow.
I've spent like almost 150 days on ban during last year on Facebook.
Castle wants us to talk about national reciprocity fast, and now what must be done now. You know what? We're going to do that. You're not going to like the conversation, but we're going to do that. Gottlieb called while I was on air in the first segment, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people forget the break times, forget the times when they're in different time zones all the time.
Here we go.
30?
30.
Back to Armed American Radio's Daily Defense with Mark Walters.
All right, amazing show today. Welcome back inside Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, gunbroker.com studios on this Crossbreed Holsters microphone. I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today across the nation. And if you're watching on the live streams, please do pass it along, share it, please. You can watch us on Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. You can catch us on YouTube, Mark Walters, parentheses, Armed American Radio. You'll find me, search for me. You got to scroll down a little bit, because you'll see lots of stuff I've done in the past and interviews and all that stuff. Scroll down until you find it, and you can lock in and bookmark that page. You can watch us on the live streams as well and on radio stations around the country. I do have one quick announcement. Those of you that listen to the program, the weekend show on AM 860 AM in Tampa, AM 860, The Answer in Tampa, will no longer be hearing the program live. I hate to tell you, from 8 to 11 p.m. on Sundays. It will now be running from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. and leading us into the Captain's America, which is great. Not a problem, but due to a contractual obligation with the Commando program and shifting some programming, that just had to happen. And we're thankful that AM 860 is just shifting us up. But still the same on the 9:30 AM in Sarasota. You can still listen to AM 930, The Answer in Sarasota live, as well as other stations around the country. And, of course, in today's day and age, you got one of these, you got a radio in your hand. So there you go. Dave Workman out there in Washington. Couple things, man. Let's get down to the nitty gritty, because I want to let people know that you and I spoke. You were the first phone call I made today. It was 7 a.m. your time. You called me back within minutes, and we chatted for about an hour about some things. And listeners, you need to know, I will call Dave from time to time, ask advice, seek guidance, mentorship, get his opinion on a number of things, maybe a particular story. The first question I asked Dave this morning was I wanted his thoughts on yesterday. And we chatted openly about some things. Some we can talk about and some we won't. However, Dave, let's just go here. It's important now that people understand that in 14 days, Joe Biden is going to be sworn in as the president of the United States, and there's nothing you can do to stop that, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Congress acted last night after the smoke settled to it fulfilled its constitutional duty. It approved the votes from the Electoral College, and Joe Biden is going to be sworn in. Now, it would take a miracle of all the gods and all the heavens, depending on which one you believe in, to change that. And I think we need to point something out, and I want to make sure the listeners understand this. When we were talking to Justin, we certainly made a point of saying that the overwhelming majority of yesterday's protesters, whatever you want to call them, they were a peaceful bunch. Now, the loons that invaded the Capitol building, that's a whole nother thing. We've seen the newsreels. Those guys, what they did was deplorable.
Yeah.
They're not trashing the offices of a bunch of congressmen. That building doesn't belong to the congressman. That building belongs to the taxpayers, and I'm a taxpayer. And what I saw last night, I can understand how visceral that is to a lot of people. And as far as the woman being shot dead, I saw two different videos of that from two different angles.
As did I.
And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to watch that.
No.
It's pretty brutal. And frankly, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I'm sure that this is going to be sorted out. But property destruction, people invading the office of a member of Congress, I don't care which member of Congress it is, sitting at somebody's chair, propping your feet up, but whatever it was that some of these people were doing, that's a no-no. We can't tolerate that as a democracy, as a republic, as a nation of free people. We can't abide by that sort of behavior. We certainly criticized last summer when the Antifa thugs were running around and BLM people were running around trashing buildings and looting small businesses and setting things on fire, including police cars, and people were killed last summer. We didn't tolerate that either. So we are maintaining at least a standard, whereas I think the other side, I can still recall watching news footage, live shots from various cities around the country where some reporter had come on and say, yeah, we're having a largely peaceful protest, and in the background you can see a building burning.
Sure.
And I'm going, wait a minute, just turn around, stupid. I think you're going to catch some news there. What happened yesterday was it was tragic, and yet on another plane, it showed that people care enough still to turn out and exercise their First Amendment rights, and we've got to divide that from the what happened inside the Capitol building yesterday.
And let's take what happened inside the Capitol building, Dave, just one step further for listeners and viewers, and that is the very small handful of idiots that did with. And by the way, you got to question the IQ of an individual who plants himself in the seat at the desk of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who was occupying that seat just moments earlier, and then snaps a photo of himself and puts it on social media. These are not intelligent people, okay? That's like filming yourself robbing a bank and then putting it on Instagram. Look what I just did. Come on, folks. These are. But here's where you have a handful of idiots, and you have some people who get swept up in emotion. They're in the front of the crowd. They're angry. The crowd's moving, and I have a feeling that's what happened with that young woman. But you've got both, and then you've got professional agitators that are there. I mean, mobs are frightening things. I've been in a mob myself. I was caught up in New York City on the 4th of July in a mob going up the East River Bridge on a ramp, and it was just the scariest thing I've ever been involved in my life. I hate that, and I hate floods. Those two things freak me out. But moving on, that small group of people just painted hundreds of thousands of people in the eyes of the media and the Democrats who hate you anyway. It just allowed them to claim, they claim, it doesn't give it to them, but they are now acting as if they have the moral authority, and now the narrative is driven by the Dems and the left, and it's the Trump rioters, and they forgot what happened. Now they're creating and driving this narrative, and it impacts every single one of us simply because of the actions of a few. And it's my job, it's Dave's job, and it's your job as patriots and Americans to decry that level of activity and say we can go to Washington, D.C., because we do it all the time, to go to D.C. and protest and do it peacefully like the vast majority of people did. And Dave, I would venture to say that the vast majority of people who were not that close up like Justin was had no idea that was even going on.
That's entirely possible. 100 or 200,000 people occupy a lot of space, and if you're half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away from "quote unquote" the scene of the crime, you have no idea what's going on. And frankly, you're right. I've read a lot of front page newspapers because
30.
around all over social media. Somebody put together a montage, and all of them are blaming Trump for what happened yesterday. Now, I didn't hear the man say, "Yeah, let's go march on the Capitol and destroy the place." I heard him say, "I'm going to march with you over to the Capitol." In fact, I can't remember his exact words, but that was the implication. And in no way could I ever accept the argument that he wanted all those people to go over there and trash the Capitol.
Not. And like you, I watched it. I watched it live with my wife, and neither one of us looked at each other and said, "Wow, did you hear what he just said?" He said, "Go to the Capitol." He was wanting people to march on the Capitol. But guess what? In the eyes, when you're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, and so many people do, it doesn't matter what he says. It's his fault for everything gone wrong. Back with Dave Workman after this. Here we go again, man. Last segment. I hate it. It's a great program today. Yesterday's was strong, too. Man, oh, man.
Every time.
I know a lot of the streamers out there watching the show live can't hear me when we're during a break, when I'm on the break screen. Not sure why that is, because there's no change in settings, either in Dallas or on my board or inside the software and the cameras. So whatever, if I want to, I guess I'm figuring it out now that I'm breaking the habit. I'm able to go to the screen with you and chat with you. But two great programs today. Tomorrow's is going to be off the hook good. Jim Irvine will be calling in tomorrow. Jim, of course, now the newest member of the board of directors, who, by the way, just got certified today to fly the new Boeing 737 MAX.
Sweet.
Yeah, he was just certified today, and he called me right after he got his certification when he stepped out of the simulator, so that was good for him. That monster will be flying here soon. We'll be flying around soon, and he will be behind the wheel of one of them somewhere. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Jim is a great guy, and we spoke at great length today. Let me tell you, viewers, I had conversations this morning with Dave Workman, a very lengthy conversation last evening until at least 11 o'clock Eastern time with Mr. Gottlieb. By the way, Mr. Gottlieb called during this program, during the first segment. Of course, he's on a separate time zone and didn't realize that he was calling during the program, but I texted him during a break to let him know. So I'll be talking with him after the show as well. I then spoke with Dave Workman early this morning, and my next call after Dave was I talked with Mr. Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. Tom and I chatted for a bit, and then after I spoke with Tom, I moved over to Jim Irvine. Had some issues. All of them sit on the board of the Second Amendment Foundation or the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. So I had some questions for those guys relative to what's going on. And these are trying times in the country, and it's only going to get worse. I can promise you that. It's only going to get worse. It's unfortunate. But there are a lot of people out there who, and we're going to talk about this in this upcoming segment, who will blame Trump for everything. Everything. The woman who got shot, Trump's fault. Trump incited a riot. She shouldn't have been there. She was there because of Trump. Everything's Trump's fault. And, of course, that's asinine stupidity, and it's low-level IQ. It's Trump derangement syndrome. It's the hatred of Donald Trump. And it's individuals who are just not intelligent enough to understand it's not about the man. It's about the agenda. We'll talk about it when we come back. The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Defender Coffee. When you drink Defender Coffee, you're making a donation to a gun rights organization of your choice that protects and defends your freedoms. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back indeed. That is, in fact, you can see that is Defender Coffee I'm drinking in here. I made myself actually a pot of it prior to today's show down the hallway, so I've got a fresh cup in here. It's not getting cold on me today. DefenderCoffee.com, great sponsors of Armed American Radio. Derek and the crew doing a great job. Derek is also rebuilding the Armed American Radio website, which we will be launching in the very, very near future. It's getting closer and closer. We want it to be perfect before we do that. DefenderCoffee.com, and please support all of our sponsors. Gunbroker.com, of course, MyPillow.com. The MyPillow folks and Mike Lindell, remarkable. Talk about a patriot. Homework. Go follow Mike Lindell's Twitter feed. Read what he is saying. The man is an absolute patriot, and if you need a pillow, buy it from him. Use the promo code AAR. It supports the program, and you get a great pillow, and guess what? You've supported a great patriot. The guy, believe me, they're going to try to cancel him. They're already trying to cancel him. It isn't going to work. But with Trump out of office, it's going to get vicious. So please support all of the sponsors that support this program. You can find them at armedamericanradio.com. And keep in mind that this is all brought to us by X Insurance. And I got to be honest with you, and up front, as I always am every single day, I've got your back on this stuff. I have my policy through them because it's real insurance. And in today's day and age, after everything that we see going on out there, I don't want second-rate, unrated, third-party. I want an insurance policy in my name that I can count on, that's going to be there for me. God forbid I need it in perilous times. Not only for your firearms and your CCW, but for your businesses, for your activities, for your toys. X Insurance will write policies up to $10 million, no exclusions. They'll cover single events. They'll cover your business. They'll cover your carry needs. If you're law enforcement, your union, this is a real company. Check them out at xinsurance.com. Please grow into real stuff just like you do every other aspect of your life and get rid of the gimmicks. Dave Workman, we've got a segment. We've got to move quick in this short segment, but it's critical that people understand today, now that we know what's coming, okay, that the leaders in the gun rights community, and that's all of us, everybody. It's not me because I'm on the mic. It's not Dave because it's all of us. We're all leaders. But when you get into the leaders of the grassroots, we've got what we know is going to be an absolutely ridiculously anti-gun administration coming in. And it's going to be probably the worst thing we've ever seen. And we've got to work together and present a united front. Dave, would you agree with that? All of us.
Yeah, I think so. One thing that gun owners habitually do that makes a lot of us just crazy is gun owners are more willing to start arguments with one another than they are to stand shoulder to shoulder and fight the bad guys. And, you try this on social media. Just make a statement out there and see how many contrary opinions pop up, and suddenly the whole conversation gets derailed because one guy thinks this, one guy thinks that, and then the next thing you hear, they're calling each other traitors. I mean, it's just it's childish. We've got a real threat coming at us, and if anybody has been reading my stuff for the last several months, they know, and they've been able to read my links to Joe Biden's gun control initiative, his agenda, and they're not kidding. These guys really want to do one gun per month under federal law. They want to require purchase or permits to purchase firearms, not just to carry them. They want to make you go get a permit to buy a gun. And where does it say that you need to get a permit to exercise a constitutional right? I've never seen that, and this is the kind of thing that we've got coming at us over the horizon. So yeah, we do need to unite. We can't be fighting with each other.
How do you do that when you have?
Well,
this is a difficult question to ask, and it's even harder to answer because each and every one of us knows someone suffering with TDS. Each and every one of us knows something or knows someone, and maybe someone very close to us. Actually, I think we've all lost friends at some point over these last 4 years, and we're just going to have to listen. This is indicative of what's happening in this country today. We are living through a remarkable time in American history, a very dangerous and very perilous time albeit as well. But here's my advice to you. If you know somebody that is suffering from TDS, just move on. Do yourself a favor. You're not going to change that person's mind. I don't care if they're pro-gun, anti-gun, whatever they are. Save yourself the aggravation, okay? The two of you have better things to do. Focus on what's in front of you. Focus on the task at hand, and that is going to be stopping what Dave Workman just told you is coming at us over the horizon. And here's the deal. And it's uncomfortable. You don't want to hear it, but it's coming. Trump is out. He's gone. There are a lot of people happy about that, and half the country isn't. But it's the reality. We have to face it now, and we have to face it unified. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I think you're right. We've got to bury any hatchets we've got because we're all in this boat together. It's not that, gee whiz, those dumb guys over at NRA, their ship is gonna sink. Look, if their ship is sinking, it's gonna tow us down. Period. Kaput. Every gun owner in the country is going to be facing the same problems under a Biden administration. There's no exceptions to that rule.
Well
if
said.
you think there are, you need counseling really hard.
Well said. It's true. And, I'm looking at some of the comments, Dave. By the way, let me just apologize in advance to those of you listening to the show today and really enjoying the content for not having another hour. If this isn't indicative that we need more time on Armed American Radio, I don't know what is. But maybe, we're talking about that. You never know. But, Dave, you're spot on with that. There's comments over here. The D.C. mayor is calling for statehood right out of the box. Okay, we don't know. My guess is that the Dems, when it comes to gun control, are going to do one of two things. There's not going to be any gray area. The reason I mentioned statehood is because it's a radical idea that tips the balance of power in Congress basically forever. Throw Puerto Rico in the mix, done. But,
yeah.
And that's exactly what their goals are. So the question is, are they going to come after your guns sooner rather than later, or are they going to wait? Now, there's two trains of thought on that, and we're not going to have enough time to discuss it all, so we'll throw it out quick. I believe they're probably going to come at you quick for their gun rights because the political base that put them in office isn't going to wait. On the other hand, if they're smart, and they're not, Biden, after what happened yesterday and feeling what's going on with the people, is going to ask his doctors what he can say, because he doesn't know what he's saying. So he's going to get a statement put out that is going to say, let's hold off on any of that right now. We don't want to incite any more trouble. So, but there's not going to be any gray area there, Dave. Go ahead.
Well, I think they're going to come after him hard and fast. And the reason I think that is because they've got 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years from now, if things work out the way a lot of people think they're going to work out, the Republicans are going to take Congress away from Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, and they're done. They'll be weak, lame ducks for the rest of their term in office. So they got 2 years to act, and they're going to push through hard.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm of that very train of thought myself. Wow, what an amazing program today. What an amazing program yesterday. Tomorrow's is going to be hard to top today's with Dave and Justin, but I can promise you Jim Irvine is going to give it a whirl. That much I can promise you. Dave Workman, the Gun Mag, Liberty Park Press, the Conservative Firing Line, American Handgunner, and I know I'm missing a couple, Dave, but I promise I'll get them out for you tomorrow. Ammo Land. Let's not forget Dave at Ammo Land.
Yeah, don't forget Ammo.
Let's not forget Ammo Land. Dave Workman, Google him, and you'll find him. We're going to run out of time. The clock is ticking. Tomorrow, we'll be here with Jim Irvine. Until then, carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never leave your cave without your club. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you on the radio. Good stuff.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X
Y'all actually think there are going to be fair elections in 2 years?
American Radio Network.
No. To answer your question, I'm sorry. I knew the intro was, or the outro was coming in, and I was going to step on it if I answered you. No, I don't.
The last fair election was 2016. Going forward, there will never be another Republican elected because they allowed this one to be certified.
Yeah, you're gonna have problems going forward. There's no question about it.
And there's not going to be any peaceful way to get out of it.
I am absolutely 100% not going to argue with you about that right now. I will say this quickly. Did you happen to see what the stock market did today by any chance?
I did not.
Whew. On a roll. Mark A had a good day today. Man, I bought more of that Tesla stock. It jumped up another 60 points today. Incredible. Apple
okay,
popped
so it's going up.
Tesla went up to 816.04. It split 5-1 not long ago, and it's popping right back up to 1,000 again. It's just a remarkable run that's been on. Shopify, guys, man, oh man, Shopify's nearing 1,200, up $72 today. Nvidia up 30 points to 533. That's a good one I'm in. Netflix was up another 8 points today. I hate owning that stock, but I got to look at the money involved right now.
Make a little money off the pedos.
Apple was up 4 points today at 130. I bought some more of that anyway. Yeah, the Dow's up 434 points today. It was a very, very strong day.
You know, Shopify dumped all the Trump stuff today, right?
I did not know that. I hadn't had a chance to look into any of that.
Yeah, they dumped them today.
Yeah, well, good for Shopify. And here's where this opens up other opportunity. Other people out there will make a ton of money on what Shopify dumped. People who mix their politics with their business like this is talk radio. We have to do it. Okay? It's what we do. And our sponsors can be very, very hard for the left to cancel my sponsors with me because of who we are, what we talk about, and what we do, and their family. We are literally partners together. But when you've got companies that buy big blocks through massive agencies, as you well know, Greg, that go into, for example, they advertise on the Hannity show or whatever, and those because they're coming in on big blocks like that, are susceptible. Laura Ingraham found that out, for example. It's very difficult for them to do that to us. But they are absolutely going to try to silence voices like ours in the coming 2 years. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, yeah, the fairness doctrine, all that.
They're going to try it. They've flirted with it in the past. And you know what that means, viewers? That means if I have Dave Workman on the program today, I've got to have somebody from another publication that is exactly opposite from him by law the following day. Now, I will tell you this right now, I will never comply with it, and they would have to kick me off the air, and I'll have to find a new line of work. I will never do it.
And here at Salem, we would have to have counter-programming.
Counter-programming to every single conservative program you run. If you've got a Mike Gallagher program running, you're going to have to offset it with a Tom Hartman. It's that simple.
Which basically means we'd have to prop up Air America.
And others, yeah.
Yep.
They've tried it before. They hate talk radio. That's the one medium they have not been able to silence in the media yet, and I can promise you they're going to come after it.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, Greg, appreciate the crap out of it. As usual, great program today. Jim's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. And I will see y'all on the radio tomorrow.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, brother. Be good, man. Thanks.
See you.
Okay, good stuff with Greg today. Hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. Got a ton of work to do right now and need to call Mr. Gottlieb back. When he rings, we respond. Anyway, good program out there today, guys. Here's the deal. As much as I hate telling you this, you don't want to hear this, but it's time to move forward at this point. You cannot refuse to accept the situation, period. Some of you are asking me about national reciprocity. Let me cover that off air right now quickly. There is a national reciprocity bill being introduced in this session of Congress. Here's my response. Whoop-de-doo. Forget about it. Okay? Move on. It ain't going nowhere, and it's never going to be signed. That doesn't mean we shouldn't push it through. You want to get people on the record, okay? And it's great to do, but again, you got to be realistic. I'm glad the bill's there, but if you think for 2 seconds that a Chuck Schumer-controlled Senate is going to even take it up, let alone pass it if they move it, and that a Joe Biden is going to, this is what we're up against for the next 4 years. Hopefully 2. But this is what we're up against in a Biden, because guess what? Presidential terms are 4 years. And that's going to be, regardless of whether it's Biden or, God help me believe I'm saying this, Kamala Harris. We did it, Joe. We did it. You're going to be the president of the United States, Joe. So there you have it. Brace yourself. You thought the Obama years were bad? You ain't seen shit yet. See you on the radio tomorrow, guys. Whew. Unbelievable.